Hello, you're listening to Over the Oxer podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's listening. Have you downloaded? Have you subscribed? Yeah, I know it's a pain, isn't it? Subscribing, liking, reviewing. It's a complete pain, but it really helps. It helps the algorithm. It helps this podcast to get spread a little bit wider so that everyone has access to some form of mindset work. And one other little favour, if you don't mind, if you have anyone that you think would make a super podcast guest, do let me know. You can email me. My email is down in the description box, or contact me on social media. We've had some fabulous guests and I've got a few more surprises in the pipeline. But if you have any other ideas or requests, do let me know. So today, I'm going to be talking about something that everyone faces at one time or another, and that is pressure. So whether it's the pressure to perform at a competition or something like that, or to train perfectly, or the pressure to keep you cool when things aren't going to plan, or maybe it's a pressure that's really internal and it's your own marker. It's your own mark of success, whether that's a lovely hack, you're able to do a particular dressage movement, you're able to jump a particular jump, whatever it might be. It could be something very personal. And it's something that you really want to get done and really want to be competent at. And very often, these pressures can feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you might wake up and think about them, and you might go to sleep and think about them. And there's one thing about pressure that you probably already know, but it's a useful reminder that most pressure doesn't actually come from the outside. It comes from within. And it's how we perceive our experiences that makes them feel heavy or light or manageable, or that we've got possibilities and options. And that's what we're going to unpack today. So one way of thinking about this is to talk about something I came across by Peter Sage. Peter Sage writes a lot about the business world, entrepreneurship, but he does it in quite a different way. He does kind of border on spiritual at times. And he talks about something that I think we can apply to our riding and our riding mindset. And he calls them the 4 levels of consciousness. And the 4 levels are to me, by me, through me, and as me. So as we talk about each one, have a little think about which one you identify with most. Be really honest with yourself, brutally honest. And we can talk about in each level how to shift the mindset stuckness or the mindset niggles of that particular level. So the first level is called to me. And this is where life happens to us. So we're in the mindset as riders that everything's against us. The weather's awful. Our horse isn't in a good mood. Nothing seems to go right. And we feel like we're victims of circumstance. If you've ever thought to yourself, why does this always happen to me? I'm never going to get this right. That's very much to me mindset. And it's very normal to feel like this at times, but it's when we get stuck there that it really drains your energy, it drains your motivation, and it just stops your enjoyment. So the to me people, I always think of as corks bobbing around on the waves of the sea. And if the sea is lovely and calm, then the cork kind of bobs along calmly. But if the sea is really rough, then the cork doesn't really have a lot of mindset ways of dealing with that. and the cork has to just be really shaken up and shaken about. Sometimes when people are in that to me, they get so fed up that they burst into action. Because very often to me is very stuck and we're in a very inactive phase. We're not even researching a problem. We're very, very inactive. We're at the point of giving up. But sometimes we break through that and we come into the second stage, which is called by me. So by me is all about action. So this is where we take charge. We start to create outcomes, and we do it through effort and willpower and dogged determination. It's about taking back our control. It's about having discipline, pushing forwards, and it starts to get you results. However, this mindset, whilst it does get you out of that stuckness, can also be a trap in itself, because it often looks like endless practice and just practice, schooling, meticulously planned routines where there's a certain amount of guilt if you have to stop and you can't fulfill a certain routine. Holding ourselves to very high standards, possibly unreachable standards at this stage. So although it puts us back in control, although it's about taking action, it can create a lot of pressure. So we start to feel if we don't push hard enough, we don't ride enough, if we don't do things and get out there and improve, then we must be failing. And so what do? If we're in by me, then we do even more practice and more schooling and more riding and more competing, and we exhaust ourselves. And very often people in the by me can lose joy in their riding because we're so focused on control. We were in that mindset where we think the more we do, the more results we'll get. And it starts to be more about quantity rather than quality. So very often, people in stage 2, in the by me mindset, get completely exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally, and then they pass on to stage 3. Now, stage 3 is called through me. And this exhausted rider is now thinking, right, there must be an easier way. I need to work smart rather than harder and harder and harder. And this is where things get really interesting. So the through me mindset is about letting go of some of that control and allowing things to flow more naturally. It's more about trusting the process. It's not about giving up, and it's not about just daydreaming. It's working, but working with your horse rather than to take full control and dominate the situation, which of course got you out of the rut, but gave you a situation that was also unpleasant. So the people in through me mindset as riders, if you imagine an effortless ride where everything just clicks, your horse is in that magnificent self-carriage and you're not overthinking every step. It's almost like you're doing it so automatically, so naturally, that you and your horse not even be that you were riding when you've experienced this before. You might have been doing groundwork, or you might have just been in your horse's presence. But it is that supreme balance between having a positive intention and almost surrendering. It's like giving over to your unconscious mind, giving over to your automatic mind, allowing your intuition, if you like, which is obviously built on all your experience and your skills, but allowing that to come to you in the moment rather than rigidly planning something. So that's a lovely way to be. The only negative with through me, and there always is a negative, is that sometimes I have to be able to pirouette by the 31st of January, those types of goals. We've let go of them. But the through me people can look at somebody else, maybe at a show, maybe on their yard, and they see somebody doing something that they'd like to be able to do, and they start to go into that comparison time, and they think, oh, that person's a lot better than me, but that person does work their horse more than me. That person does do X, Y, and Z that I no longer do. And if they're a true through me person, they will probably stay at through me, or they may go on to stage 4, which I'll talk about in a second. But there can also be this rollback to stage 3 in the by me, because you see this other person doing what you know is in your own potential to do, but you just need to put more time, more effort, more schooling in. And so you can slip back quite easily and start to overwork again. For those people that look at the others around them and are happy for them, in other words, they don't compare themselves negatively, they don't suddenly think that they have to be able to do what the other people are doing, very often they move into stage 4, which is called as me. And this as me mindset, there's no separation. This is going to sound totally woo-woo, but there is no separation between you and the experience. Your horse and yourself are one when you're together. It's an unspoken harmony, and it's quite a rare thing in this world. But when you're in this space, it's pure connection. There is no pressure, no worry, no comparison. You're just being. And I love that one. It's very hard to attain in any area of life. So how do we move from feeling that life is just happening to us in the to me and embrace that as me? Well, first of all, like most things in mindset, it starts with an awareness. You notice when you're feeling overwhelmed, and you ask yourself, which mindset am I in right now? Because we don't stay stuck, we fluctuate between these. And just recognizing which one you're in, to me, is it happening to me? Is it being forced or made possible by me? Are things happening through me? Now, if you are a little bit overwhelmed, you won't be in as me at all. The next thing is that when we recognize where we are, that in itself can shift your perspective, and we can start to let go of the things that are no longer serving us. We can let go of rigid expectations, perfectionism, because those are huge sources of pressure for riders, and we can allow more space for flow, to allow more levels of connection with our horses. And sometimes in going through these different levels, we need to remember it's okay to let intuition guide us sometimes. And finally, we need to think about the joy of riding, because although we know in our heart of hearts that that's why we do it, because we love it and we enjoy it so much and we love these beautiful equine creatures, but at the same time, we find it relatively easy to forget that. So whether it's a good day that you're having or it's a challenging day, every ride, every piece of time with your horse teaches you something. And when you let go of that need to be perfect and just be for a few moments with your horse, that pressure starts to fade away. I hope you found that insightful and useful, and it certainly always gives me food for thought to think about these 4 consciousness levels. I hope it lightens your load. And if this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do drop me a message, share your story. I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, take care, and I'll see you again very soon.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.